The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. We continue our preparation for November's election. Like every election cycle, a number of Ohio's school districts seek operating levy renewals or increases. Students in Oak Hills Schools in Delhi Township have traditionally scored well on annual academic testing. Even under the new, tougher evaluation system just released, Oak Hills students earned an A on performance on state tests. Before the May primary this spring, the district had not gone to the voters for a levy since 1997, an unusually long 16-year gap in request. But in May, a levy went down 55 to 45%. The Oak Hills schools are back on the November 5th ballot, looking for support from residents. The levy issue number 20 on the Hamilton County ballot, is designed to raise $5,275,000 a year for 5 years. To accomplish that, the levy will be for 4.82 mills, meaning that for every $100,000 of property valuation, a person will pay $145.34 per year. To discuss the Oak Hills levy, I am joined this morning by Todd Yohe, the superintendent of the Oak Hills school system, and Sarah Kaito, a parent and supporter of the levy who serves on the levy committee. Welcome to Newsmakers. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
And on your website, you explain the need for the levy in terms of the fact that you went 16 years without one, that there have been 7 years of declining property values in the district, and the district stretches over Delhi and Green Township, and $6.8 million in cuts from the state since 2009. My question is, why did you wait so long? Why did you wait 16 years to come back?
Well, I think that the Oak Hills Local School District has done a tremendous job of being fiscally responsible. And by that I mean, you know, they built up some cash reserves that we've used the last 7 to 8 years to counter deficit spending. And so we didn't think it was fair to our taxpayers to go on the ballot when we had operating dollars in the bank. So we spent those operating dollars to the point now where we need additional revenue. And so we just didn't think it was fair to ask taxpayers to increase their taxes when we had cash balance in the bank.
As a parent in the district, did people just get used to having a really solid, good school system without having to, I mean, most school systems face this every 5 years at least.
Yes.
Frequently, more often. Did people just sort of get comfortable with the delivery of the service here?
I think part of what the problem is with at least my generation is we grew up, I went to Oak Hills, and I remember facing levies every couple of years, and now as a parent, this hasn't been an issue yet. So I'm happy to be able to pay that small amount for my kids to continue getting the services that they are. And I think a lot of the parents out there feel that way. It's just a matter of getting them to vote and to come and to show their support.
Dan, Sarah mentioned a generational thing. Prior to May, our last 3 graduating classes from Oak Hills High School went their entire 13 years in Oak Hills without a levy on the ballot.
Yeah, and that's a very unusual sort of thing. Now, some people in the district argue that, in fact, there was a tax increase, even though it wasn't on the ballot. In fact, they point out that the fact that it wasn't on the ballot is something that sticks in some people's craw. Back in 2007, there was, you did something with inside millage, and this is where it gets really complicated for people. How would you respond to that, though, that in fact even though you weren't on the ballot for 16 years,
sure,
you did get new tax money?
The district did transfer a little over 3 mills in inside millage. That was done after a lot of community engagement. It wasn't done in the dark of night. That did provide income for the district since 2007. It helped the district establish a permanent improvement fund, which is a fund that's used to purchase big ticket items, school buses, technology, textbooks, etc. That funding cannot be used for operational expenses. So the levy that's on the ballot in November is for operational expenses. The income or the inside millage transfer was promoted to last 7 to 10 years, and that's based on what they knew back in 2006, which didn't include a housing slump, etc. And it's done just that. 2006, it's 2013, and so it did exactly what it was supposed to do. But even people who want to say that that was a tax increase, and it was, there's no doubt about that. So in 16 years, there's been a $3 million increase.
Okay.
That's how I would address that.
What did you learn from the experience in May? I mean, here's a district that, you know, is always getting positive reviews, hadn't been on the ballot for a long time, first time out in 16 years, and you lost 55 to 45, pretty substantial. What did you hear? What were the people who were supporters? How did you sort of analyze what happened in May?
I think the biggest issue we had was voter turnout. Many of the parents that I spoke to that did not vote assumed it would pass because it had been 16 years, because it's a wonderful school system, because it's a school levy. They just assumed it would pass, so they did not take the time to go vote. So the voter turnout from our parents was very low, and that was, I personally think that was the reason why it failed. And this time we're hoping that people realize that they do need, every vote does count, and they do need to go out and vote yes so we can pass the levy.
You know, as somebody who's been involved in politics either as an activist or as a reporter since 1968, turnout is always the answer to everything. It's not so much convincing people who don't agree with you, it's getting the people who agree with you to go to the polls.
Exactly.
And that's the whole trick of all of these things. Sure. So, in this new, that's just, you know, the Oak Hills has had this wonderful reputation. There's this new state grading system now on the A to F, and not just a single grade, but in these different areas. How did you come out this time?
We were pleased in some areas, and some areas were identified as certainly as needs that we need to, areas that we need to improve on. It's hard to say how we reacted because we really didn't know what to expect.
Nobody did.
Yes, it's a new system. There are a lot of unanswered questions about how grades are determined, you know, the data that goes into that, and so on. We received, you know, mostly A's and B's.
Right.
We received one C in one of the areas. But, you know, Oak Hills is a district that is always seeking to improve. If the letter grades did anything, it just helped us identify some areas, you know, that we need to concentrate on, and that's what we're doing now.
Which is the point of breaking up those grades. And that C was in the area of being able to close gaps between students who have different backgrounds, who have different needs. And is that something that you feel like that report allowed you to focus on in a different way?
Yeah, what the report does is it divides our student body into some subgroups, 10 subgroups. So it's helping us to really focus in on populations of students. So economically disadvantaged, for example, gifted, students with disabilities. Not that we didn't focus on the students before, but in terms of the gap and value-added data, we now have those populations of students identified by name, and we can make sure that there are the proper interventions, the proper challenges being presented to those students.
You know, one of the things in one of the groups that you mentioned there was students with disabilities. And I have, as I tried to do the research on this, saw some references to some people trying to figure out the amount of money that the district spent on what are called the Peterson Scholarship Program. And I have to tell you, I had never, I do a lot of things on schools, I had never focused on this. What is this, and what's involved?
The Peterson Scholarship is if your child is on an IEP, then
independent
education plan, which my daughter was on an IEP for speech from preschool through first grade. And the special services are offered through the Oak Hills local school district, but they also would have to pay for your child to go to the private school if they live within that district. There's the Peterson Scholarship would pay for the tuition at the private, the schools in Western Hills and Delhi Township are Catholic schools, so they would pay for them to go to that Catholic private school, and still they would, Oak Hills would still be in charge of the IEP.
So these are students who start out in the Oak Hills public schools, want to transfer to a Catholic school, for the most part.
Non-public.
Non-public school, because they think they're going to get better education for these sorts of needs?
Well, I can't speak to the minds of what parents are thinking. We have one of the largest, if not the largest, parochial populations in the state. About 60% of the students who live in Oak Hills attend the public school, and the other 40% attend parochial school. And so the John Peterson Scholarship set up a program where parents of students with disabilities can choose to enroll in a non-public school now, and there's money from the state that follows them that's taken from the public school district. It's not that we can't offer the services or that we don't have those services.
In fact, you do offer the services.
We do offer those, and actually we do very well with those students. In fact, parents move to Oak Hills for the special education services. But it's a parent choice, and we are hit very hard because of our population. If you didn't have a very high non-public population, then the Peterson Scholarship probably doesn't impact the district much.
Okay.
But for us, that's a lot of money.
Okay, so it's a part of this is demographics of why this is an issue in Oak Hills.
Correct.
But it's a statewide program.
It's a statewide program, but there are only a few areas that have been impacted, financially, and Oak Hills is one.
And I was, as far as I can figure out, this cost the district about $338,000 last year.
Yeah, that's a figure from last year. Those numbers have increased, so it's $500,000.
And I guess the other way to put that, picking up some of what's being talked about out there, is this the cause for the need of the levy? Is this the levy? Is this why the levy's suddenly there?
Yeah, absolutely not. Okay. Our gap in funding is $5.2 million. Certainly, or roughly $5.3 million. Certainly, that $500,000, would decrease that need. But the Peterson Scholarship is not why we're on the ballot at all.
Even though it's $500,000, it's still a small percentage.
It's still a small percentage.
Okay.
Correct.
If the levy passes, what happens? What will the levy do for Oak Hills School if it passes?
It will let us keep the programs that we have and the classes that we have. We have a lot of opportunities for students to take college level classes. I was speaking yesterday to one of our sign language intervention specialists, and she was saying that she was worried that American Sign Language would no longer be offered if the levy didn't pass. There are certain classes that we have that intervention and gifted intervention, not just for kids that have special needs, but for kids that are gifted. There are a lot of classes and teachers' jobs that could be taken away because we would not be able to afford all that.
Well, we'll talk about what happens if it doesn't pass, but if it does pass. So the point is, you're going to be able to maintain.
We'll be able to maintain the classes, the curriculum.
This is not about adding new programs.
No, not at all.
Okay. Again, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. It looks like it's 2 years since faculty have received a raise and 3 years since administrators. Is that right?
That's correct. The faculty received a small increase by contract this year.
Okay. If this passes, will there be raises built into that?
Certainly it's a 5-year levy. It's limited term, expires in 5 years. I have to imagine in those 5 years, if the levy passes, that the school board will approve some increase over those 5 years.
Let's flip that question now. If it doesn't pass, and it didn't pass in May, you made some adjustments. If it didn't pass this time, what are the implications?
Well, the implications are certainly a loss in personnel. In Oak Hills, early on, I mentioned our permanent improvement fund to purchase big ticket items. So our operating monies, we're a people business.
Right.
And so roughly 80% of our budget is for people. We have 8,000 some students. We need adults to work with them and provide all the services. But when it comes time to make reductions, that's where you have to make reductions to gain on any type of funding.
How many classroom teachers would be lost?
Approximately 50.
50 throughout all of the schools?
Mostly middle school and high school.
Mostly middle school and high school.
And because we've made staff reductions at our elementaries over the last 4 years, I mean, a levy just doesn't happen to you. You know, you do 5-year forecasts, you know when that time's coming. So the last 4 years, we've made staff reductions every year across the board in every department. But now we're at a point where those reductions are going to be large scale.
Sarah, you're a graduate of Oak Hills School. You're a parent now.
Yes.
What would the loss of that sort of number of teachers mean as you project what your children are going to experience?
For me, since my children are still in kindergarten and second grade, it would mean that as they get to the middle school and the high school where they can take these amazing classes that are going to prepare them for their future, they would not be available anymore. I want my kids to be able to experience the same wonderful things that the kids at Oak Hills up in the upper grades have been experiencing for years, and I don't want them to lose out on that because we weren't able to get the funding that we need to keep them going.
I have less than about 30 seconds here. Coast has charged that you're using taxpayer dollars to recycle old signs, and the school system is acting illegally. What do you say to that charge?
That charge is false. I have no response to it other than that the charges are ridiculous.
So things are running through the committee, not through the schools.
Yes, everything is running through the Citizens Committee for Oak Hills Local Schools.
Thank you for being here. We'll be looking on November 5th and see. Welcome back. While Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky struggle over how to plan, design, and fund a new interstate bridge to supplement the Brent Spence, Louisville and Southern Indiana are working together to finalize designs and begin construction of 2 new bridges. The Downtown Crossing Bridge will serve as the new Interstate 65 bridge with 6 northbound lanes. The project includes a rehabilitation of the existing I-65 bridge. The East End Crossing Project, which will come up here in a second, there you go, is already under construction, will extend the Gene Schneider Freeway, Interstate 265 across the Ohio River, linking it to the I-265 portion of the Beltway on the Indiana side. How is it that Louisville has been able to move these 2 projects forward while Greater Cincinnati continues to slog through the planning for 1 new bridge? The Northern Kentucky Forum, which is a project of Scripps Center for NKU, Vision 2015 and Legacy, is sponsoring a session tomorrow night, Monday night, entitled Lessons from Louisville. To discuss that effort, I am joined this morning by Sharmili Reddy, who is a member of the board of the Northern Kentucky Forum and is a planner by background. Sharmili, welcome back to Newsmakers. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Dan.
The forum that you're going to hold, titled Lessons from Louisville, who are you bringing in? Who are going to be your presenters and people that can be talked with about the Louisville experience?
Well, we're very excited that we were able to get Lieutenant Governor Jerry Abramson, who has been the mayor of Louisville for a long time.
Once known as mayor for life, but now Lieutenant Governor, right?
So we're very excited that he was able to join us for the event. We also have Mr. Kerry Stemler, who is a businessman from Indiana, and he has been very involved with the bi-state authority that Kentucky and Indiana have formed to basically deal with the bridge projects down in Louisville. So both of them, a ton of knowledge between these 2 gentlemen, and we're just hoping that we can sort of glean how they went through their process and how they've gotten to where they've gotten to.
Jerry Abramson was a guest on Newsmakers 4 years ago or so, talking about the process that went on in Louisville and Jefferson County to merge into a single unified countywide government. And he is so interesting to me because he understands public process. He's patient. He doesn't believe it has to happen tomorrow. So I'm very anxious to hear what he has to say about this bridge project, because now we're dealing with two states, not just inside the county of one state. So I think he'll bring a lot to this. We
think so too. We think there's so many similarities between what both of our communities are going through, what they've gone through, and with the Lieutenant Governor having been the mayor of Louisville during those initial discussions, can sort of help our community, I think, sort of think through the process and figure out, you know, where we need to be maybe in the future.
Who do you hope will come to the forum?
We know that this is a hot topic for our communities, and we know everybody has an opinion about it. So I think this is more for anybody that's been thinking the past year about, well, you know, Louisville's done this, how have they managed to get two projects built, what's going to happen with our bridge. Let's just try and think about, you know, what's going on in their community. So this is for residents, this is for our elected officials, it's for legislators if they're interested. So pretty much anybody that's concerned about the future of our bridge is welcome to attend our event. And I'm going to facilitate the session tomorrow night, Monday night, and my experience, because I've been invited to facilitate forums before, is there's really good interchange, good chance for people to pose their questions to the guest, and there's also on the website there's an opportunity for people who are interested to fill in a survey before tomorrow night where that data can be collected. And what are you trying to figure out about people's views on the bridge? Well, this is really going to be a two-part series, Dan. So we're hoping that our first event is focused on the Louisville Bridge project, and then the second event, which we're hoping to host later in November, is going to be about the Brent Spence Bridge. So we're trying to gauge certain answers from the community on where they stand so that we can really tailor the event towards those questions and those issues that the community is interested in. And I know you're not an expert on the Louisville projects, but you know, one of the things when people talk about bridges, and it's certainly the case here, it's not just the bridge that crosses the river. It's all of the interchanges and all of the sections of road that lead to that bridge. And in Cincinnati, northern Kentucky, there's about 8 miles involved, and that takes a lot. In Louisville, we have a little segment from their animation, something leading into that bridge area, which they call Spaghetti Junction, which they want to clean up, and we can take a look at that. From a planner's point of view, oftentimes I think people think the bridge is just this isolated thing over the river. It's much more complicated than that, right? Oh, definitely. There's a lot of people that are going to be impacted by this. There's a lot of communities in northern Kentucky that are going to be impacted by this. Our elected officials and our legislators have all been very active with this project. Our local transportation cabinet is very active. So there's a lot of brain power behind this project. But yes, there's going to be long-term impacts that we have to think about now. And I want to be clear that even though this is the Northern Kentucky Forum, people from Cincinnati are certainly welcome to join this, because this is the whole point of what the lesson from Louisville is cooperation and collaboration between Indiana, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, and Louisville. It is collaboration. So, by the way, here's the animation for that downtown bridge and trying to clean up Spaghetti Junction down in Louisville. But that's very much for people on the Cincinnati side of the river to attend this as well. Absolutely. Everybody is welcome. Again, this is something that we hope we can learn from what they've done in Louisville. So absolutely, everybody is welcome. I want to be sure that people know where to go. It is Monday night. And we are, it's from 6 till 8 in the evening, and it's at Notre Dame Academy, which has an address of 1699 Hilton Drive. For those of you not familiar with northern Kentucky, if you know where Park Hills is, it's off the Dixie Highway, and you actually see Notre Dame Academy
from I-71, 75. It sits on a hill just before you go down the big cut in the hill. It's off to your, what is that, west. And so it's not hard to find. It's off the Dixie Highway. Don't worry about the Hilton Avenue part. Sort of across from Covington Catholic High School. And be sure to, if you want, to take the online poll before you come to the forum. So thank you for being here to sort of give us a taste of what's going to happen tomorrow night. And I think this is going to be really interesting. I hope a lot of people come.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week for a discussion of issue number 1 on the Hamilton County ballot, the issue to support the public library system. Have a good week.